and welcome to BroadStreetHockey.com. Sorry, Gilbert. I thought I was supposed to. Were you going to introduce
I
everyone?
thought no. Please
I put
please
in the
take the
chat.
wheel.
I was like,
Please. I didn't see the private chat. Sorry. No, take the wheel. Take
I
the
hear
wheel.
an echo.
yeah. Wait,
that
actually,
me?
or just two hosts?
Now he hears nothing apparently.
Okay.
No, I don't. Okay,
Oh my
it's weird.
god,
I don't
that's a
know.
great start. Gilbert, just go ahead.
No, you got it. Please
Mine's
take it.
cursed. My intro's
I was
cursed.
Twilight Zone for a second there.
Okay. Well, hello and welcome everyone to BroadStreetHockey.com live stream. A little one-off, a little shoot. We figured with the Four Nations going on, like it's a perfect time to just catch up with all the news and rumors that is everything going on in Flyerland. It's a lot is going crazy. Are the sellers? Are they gonna maybe do a couple of little moves? So we thought we'd just like sit down, just make a very simplified, like this is all the latest things. This is what could happen, what we could see happen, what we couldn't see happening. And thought it would be just good just to have Gilbert and Jacob, obviously from BSH as well. I'm Thomas, and yeah, how are you guys doing?
Doing good. Yeah, we got the Four Nations facing off. We got two nations facing off here with amount numbered here. But yeah, I'm doing good.
I am absolutely my setup is absolutely tweaking right now, but great to see everybody. I hear 5 people in my ear, so I'm gonna leave and come back.
Okay, yeah, leave and come back. My mic is giving me crackling, and it's only in my ears. We're doing fine over here. So I figured like it's really interesting where the Flyers are at with the trade that obviously already went down, and then there's sprinkling of things that other names can be going on. Of course, Scott Laughton, Rasmus Ristolainen have found themselves on trade boards consistently. And then an interesting new name, Andrei Kuzmenko, has potentially might get moved. So we thought we just kind of go player by player. So Gilbert, we're like I think the biggest one that would have an effect on the team on and off the ice would for sure be Scott Laughton. Like where are you at with the idea, just plain and simple, of the Flyers trading him at this deadline?
It's every year now. Scott Laughton's name. Flyers won a first. Flyers got offered 2 firsts. Didn't take it here, but it feels like this might finally be the year where they're able to trade him here. I mean, I feel like they probably would have traded him last year if they weren't so close. They were in a playoff spot pretty much at the deadline here. So now got rid of Frost and Farabee. He still has 1 year left on his deal after this, so it makes sense to trade him right now. The offseason makes sense too, but if you hold him until next deadline, you're probably just holding him. And if you can get close to a first round pick, or I know the Leafs are rumored Fraser Minton, or like somehow Easton Cowan in that deal, like if you can get a first round pick or high second for Laughton, I think you have to do it. I know there's a lot of implications off the ice in the room and whatnot, but and I also think he has a no trade clause with Danny. Danny's going to take every trade to him, make sure he is okay with it. So that's why I think he ends up in Toronto.
Yeah, him going home, local Oakville guy. Jacob and I could talk about how much dislike we have for Oakville. But yeah, I think it just makes sense, especially with the timing of this deadline compared to something like next year. Like it'd be a very obvious rental where I think it'd be the easiest thing of like Laughton for a second or like 2/3 or something if it was next year. And then I think now the Flyers are weighing the risk and reward. Basically, they're looking at, well, if we can get a decent prospect in a second or a first round pick this year or next for this guy that this hypothetical team would have 2 playoff runs with, then yeah, I think the timing just works out well. Jacob, I asked Gilbert kind of what his feeling was about trading Laughton. Are you back? Are you fully?
I just brief behind the scenes. I closed everything on my computer. I went to Task Manager, closed everything. I could hear you guys still. It was like my computer was haunted. I was very scared. I don't know why it was playing twice.
Okay.
It was not open in 2 windows, whatever. Continuing on though. I think what you're asked. when I was hearing three of you, Risto and Laughton. At this point, it feels like you have to trade them, right? Like, what's even the point of hanging on to them? It's not even that Ristolainen has rehabbed his value and is actually a valuable NHL defenseman at this point, and that Scott Laughton is a great guy in the room. I think that's probably the best argument to keep him, is that he's a great guy in the room, right? Because it's not like his play on the ice is necessarily it's anything that's too unique and that you can't just get from somebody else, whether it be somebody in the AHL, whether it be guys already on the roster. Like Ryan Poehling provides similar functions, if not better at times throughout this year, right? So, it would suck to see Laughton go, especially because he is so well loved within the fan base and around the locker room. And then making that blow already with trading Farabee and Frost at the same time could cause some friction. But yeah, it makes, like, anyone who is available to be traded, they really should just be sending them off, because it doesn't necessarily make sense to keep roster players right now because they've already shown that they don't need them, especially even the younger ones, right? Like Frost and Farabee are on the younger side of that group.
Yeah, like if they're already moving on from Jesus, my throat. Sorry, I'm posting the blue sky. I'm posting the link. If they're already moving on from young guys, and like we know that we went over this before in other streams around the trade and Kyle's trade video, but yeah, like if they're already moving on from pieces that they're deciding doesn't fit, like do they think actually a 35-year-old Laughton on the next Flyers playoff team is actually going to be doing something? So I think now it just makes sense to pull that trigger. Speaking of pulling the trigger, terrible segue. As per Anthony DeMarco of Daily Faceoff, the two teams that have recently kind of been poking around Laughton a little bit more than others are the Leafs and Jets. And then in a further report, apparently since his initial tweet mentioning the Leafs and Jets, that several other teams, I think he said 4 or 5 or something like that, have inquired since then. So like obviously that kind of pushed the envelope further and just being like, oh, well, probably should get on this if you really want them. Gilbert, do you think, like, out of the Leafs and Jets, do you think let's look at like the fit there first, like not like just general on ice fit for the Leafs and the Jets, other than like what the Flyers are going to get. But like, does Laughton make sense for either of those teams?
I mean, kind of. I mean, Toronto needs a third line center. I'm not sure if Laughton is a center really at this point, at least not in Tortorella's system. I mean, he's playing it now, but yeah, he can, slide in on that third line, fourth line if he has to, and do what he does. Kills penalties, two-way game, good guy in the room. Like teams know what they're getting, and they're probably getting him just as much for his intangibles as they are for his play on the ice. And like, Toronto just makes sense for them this year, especially because Tavares and Marner are both upcoming free agents. They want to take one more crack at it. And like, there's not that many good centers out there. There's talk about Ryan O'Reilly being traded back there, but Nashville might want to keep him. Brock Nelson, it sounds like he's going to be re-signing on Long Island there. So like, it's Scott Laughton, Yanni Gourde, like Nick Bjugstad. Like, Laughton's the guy that these teams have probably been after for a year or two. And now that he's becoming available, I mean, the Leafs definitely have a spot for him in their bottom 6, as do the Jets. That's kind of surprising to me that the Jets would potentially want him. I don't think the Flyers would trade him there, but yeah, I mean, any playoff team can use a guy like Scott Laughton. Bottom 6, kill penalties, can play center, can play wing, can do what he's asked. Like, yeah, I think he'd fit in great there.
Yeah, like I think it just makes sense, especially even Jets. Like Nemestikov is their second line center on like one of the better teams, that supposedly better teams. Like, I think they need any upgrade, maybe a Jared McCann if he's available or something like that. But yeah, like I think Laughton kind of makes sense, especially for the Leafs. And Jacob, do you think, like, what would you want? Like, realistically, of course, we could be like, I want all the prospects that they have currently for a guy that is 2 years away from free agency. But like, what can you really realistically ask the Leafs for?
Well, this is the problem I have when I'm talking about this move, right? Because I see what the Leafs would want him, right? They also seem to value him as, like, the Leafs need scoring depth, right? That's what they're looking for. They're
Yeah.
looking for guys who can score in the bottom six a bit more and support like that, because they always play Marner and Matthews together. So that leaves the second line to be Nylander, Tavares, and then the bottom six is kind of exposed, and it's hard for them to generate offense. And to me, like as the guy that we've seen over the past few years, I don't think Scott Laughton is actually like an independent generator of offense on a very good team, especially in playoff minutes, right? When it tightens up. I think he's a very good hockey player. I think the Leafs could use him, right? Definitely. But it's hard for me to generate a return because I think the Leafs might value him even higher than, like, say, people in the Flyers fan base do, or like even us, like Flyers centric people, because I'm looking at Scott Laughton. I kind of see a guy who's a fourth line center, third line winger. If the Leafs are looking at him, they're definitely going to try and at least put him on the third line. And that's of a team that's going to make a playoff run or be in the playoffs at the very least. So like maybe you can pry Fraser Minton out of their hands for Scott Laughton. I mean, for me, I think you can just put Fraser Minton where Scott Laughton is and give it a run for the last little bit of the season, right? And see if he can at least do that. I think Easton Cowan, like somebody like that, those are the two main Leafs prospects that they have in their system that are desirable. And I think are realistic for them to trade, right? Because they actually have some value. I think the rest of the Leafs sort of system is kind of up in the air.
You don't want Roni Rovinen or whatever?
Yeah, Roni's fine,
Yeah,
but again, I don't think he's a name that people are like excited about. Like,
they're bad. I would have
Roni
loved
in
if they
there.
kept Liljegren and that been part of the deal, but they fucked up there.
No, I don't think he has any value to anybody, and he wouldn't play here
Liljegren's
anyways.
Whatever.
He wouldn't have any. He wouldn't play here anyways. So it's like, what are you gonna get him? Get for Laughton, right? Besides like Minton, or because I don't think the Flyers should be getting picks, especially not from the Leafs. What's a first from the Leafs when you already have two of them and multiple seconds? It's not going to be
so they don't
particularly high pick.
Yeah, they don't have this year, and then but they have next year. So I think
I still don't think it'll be a high pick even next year.
No, it won't. But also like a late first for Laughton is still fine. I think
it is a great return. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's weird. It's weird for me to think about it because I don't think he should even be worth a first. So like, yeah, you take the deal if you get offered a first for him, but like,
I think
it's strange that they're talking in that manner.
I know. I don't see
like I think I wouldn't trade him for like just a third, right? I don't think that.
Yeah. Would you do just Minton straight up?
Yes.
Yeah, easy.
Immediately.
Yeah. Like that's
very quickly.
Like I think I was reading somewhere.
Let's ride Jet and Minton in the middle six, and then we can figure out the rest of it.
Yeah, I think Minton's a very similar player to Laughton. Like more defensively sound. Didn't score a whole bunch in junior. Like he's 20. So in his draft plus 2, because he's a 22 draft. Yeah. So his draft plus 1, 67 points in 57 games. Draft plus 2, got traded to the Blades because the Blazers sucked. 38 points in 30. Yeah, he's not lighting the world on fire.
I'm not expecting him to be a prolific scorer necessarily.
Is he just like a Noah?
Talking about
Cates type?
I would say he like Cates is better defensively, but I think Minton like
it's shown higher peaks on offense too. I think right this year than Minton ever has.
Yeah, in the Flyers system, like Minton, I think his skating is not 100% like his strong suit. His like he doesn't play within immense pace. Like I don't know. I have a hard time reading Minton. But I think he would still be a good get, and still like it's a center prospect that would immediately become your second best center prospect after Jet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for me, yeah. Like, sorry, Thomas, but whatever, like, just for me, it's a guy you get who's 20 for a guy in Scott Laughton who, like, at times over the past 2 seasons, if he wasn't such a likable guy and if he wasn't such a guy who's like a heartbeat member of the team on merit, he probably could have been scratched. like
Mhm.
over the past 2 years. That I remember having these conversations, especially when, other younger players like Bobby Brink was getting scratched, and it's like, well, Scott Laughton's been in the lineup, and Scott Laughton's not necessarily been lighting the world on fire. So you're getting a 20-year-old guy who, in Fraser Minton, who he at least has a chance to grow. I think right now he can probably play a decent, fourth line center in the league as a 20-year-old. And if you can grow him to be a third line center consistently, I think that's just a better asset at a way younger age for a guy who at some point is going to have to go, right? Like at some point he's not going to fit in.
Yeah, I think Minton's like an NHL level player no matter what. So even if you get your bottom six center for the next 15 years out of a guy who, like you said, like if it was in a vacuum, if Laughton wasn't Laughton, if Laughton was like Lucas Sedlak or something, then like literally his on ice results are worse than and like a lot of Flyers forwards. Like it's just terrible. Like the impact that he does on the ice is not good. So in a vacuum, if it was that player for actually getting a pick and like a decent pick, then it's just like a home run.
Yeah, it's kind of to the point where like Laughton has to go. Like yeah, even if Minton is just a third line guy, like you guys said, like he's 20, like he can grow with this team. He has size. You can put him at center and not have to call up Jacob Gaucher or whoever the fuck from the AHL, and you can just put him there, give him decent wingers, and see what happens. I was just looking up. He primarily played with Robertson and like Domi for the Leafs, so not exactly.
Yeah, Domi's been ass.
Yeah, so not
you guys
not
that
great.
do not care about like 3/4 of the ice.
And Robertson is like a scorer who can't finish.
Yeah,
basically.
he likes to shoot.
Yeah, so put Minton between any of the Flyers two wingers, like Minton, Pelletier, and
Brink would actually be pretty sick.
Brink,
if he was able to like, so Minton
has a
has
lot of skating skill on that line. Not a lot of
but
beautiful
like,
strides there.
I don't know. Then
power skate.
Yeah, get Barb Underhill. 4 points in 15 games for Minton in the Leafs, and then with the Marlies in the AHL, 5 goals, 10 points in 17 games. Like and as a 20-year-old, that's pretty good. Like if you're scoring half a point a game in the AHL, especially, like he has some height. He's 6'2", but he's 192. Like he's not like bulking out there for his height. But yeah, I think if you just did Minton straight up, it'd be interesting. But it's like Jacob, like you were saying, it's just like honestly for what Laughton is at this point, you just have to like squeeze him for whatever value he has, which is why I think also like, and Gilbert, you wrote a good piece. I think it's today. It came out today of like the Briere just like taking advantage of the market, and since like teams value what Laughton brings off the ice as well, so it's just like a team might like the Leafs that might want to just have someone shore up the room and just like really solidify something for a longer run. They might value him more than like a Jared McCann, even like McCann's like exponentially better on the ice, but like for someone that like will be fine in the room and like can do this for 2 times for next year as well, and it's just tricky.
I guess the question could be: would you give up like a second in Laughton for Minton and a third, like a pick swap of some sort, with the Leafs getting the better pick? Because I have to imagine they would ask for that.
You muted and then unmuted and then coughed.
Probably double click. Sorry.
It doesn't matter. Like it's not like it's loud. It's just really funny. So if you really wanted to like talk about it and you wanted to try and squeeze out whatever you can from the Leafs, right? Like a Leafs team, if the Leafs really want Scott Laughton, because he's, he played in Oshawa and junior. He's a local guy. He's from Oakville. He's from around here. He's a good guy in the community, right? He'd be a very good like public-facing guy to have for the Leafs too, right? And they are a brand, and it makes sense. It would make sense. Laughton fits sort of the culture of Toronto and the team culture. I think he'd be good for, right? So if they really, really want Scott Laughton, like if that's like the guy they've zeroed in, they don't want Yanni Gord, who cares about Yanni Gord realistically? It's not necessarily a guy who's going to push the needle to another level anyways, right? If they're not going to get Nick Bukestad, if they're not going to get guys like who Thomas mentioned, just rental guys who bring a middle six potential without much else, if they're not going to do that and they're just going to decide on Laughton, and really they value that two-way play. And I think also he's a big Berube guy. I think he just makes sense with Berube as well. So it all kind of fits. And then Brad Treliving even as well. I think all these guys, Laughton just sort of fits that team and how they put that team together. So if you wanted to put a second and a third in and then try and go get Cowan or take a big swing or that's really the guy. Like if you're going to get the Leafs prospect, if you're going to get a good prospect from the Leafs, it's going to be Easton Cowan, really. Like Hirvonen and Minton are decent, but like they're just not guys who you would target. Like if you're getting guys like that back for Laughton, I don't even know. You'd have to weigh like the cost to the room and the cost to like intangible stuff if you're just getting like a third round value return. But I think you can add stuff on to Laughton and maybe get a really nice piece back, like a young piece who can actually fit the timeline. I think there's a really good possibility that could happen as well.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that post game we did. Like, would they who could the Leafs possibly want from the Flyers that they would want to trade? Like,
yeah,
maybe like a Hathaway and Laughton. I don't think the Flyers want to trade.
No, I think the Leafs should have originally gotten Garnet Hathaway. I've said this for a while now, like just around Leaf fans I know and just around people. Like he fits that need that they really lack, and they tried to fill by getting Ryan Reeves. It's like Ryan Reeves is a bit player. Like he's not really a hockey player. He's more like an event. Like you're going to the rink to see Ryan Reeves because he's probably going to fight somebody, and it's maybe not even going to look that good because he has no knees and can't stand up. But that's what he's there for. He's not like a player, so it doesn't fit in the lineup. Whereas Hathaway would have played, and he would have been a decent, fourth line guy, and he can do a lot of different things. And I think that's maybe what a similar role they try and fill with Laughton.
Yeah, I honestly think a package that we could see if Laughton is going to Toronto, because I feel like did you just lose my camera for some reason?
Yeah.
There you go. That was weird. Okay, if Laughton's going to Toronto, let's say because I feel like that's kind of conclusion that makes the most sense for what they need and like local guy, whatever.
Yeah, it seems like he's the most. That's the destination that I can't really see him going anywhere else. They might not even trade him anywhere else.
Yeah, like they've narrowed. It does feel narrowed down to Toronto. I could see it happening similar to the Sean Walker trade. That if Flyers really want a first round pick for this guy, that's what they've been saying ad nauseum forever. That they even turned down, and then now reportedly turned down a first round pick. But now they're like, that's our price, like a first round pick. Like they did with Walker, they can get that first round pick, but I think that it would take taking back someone like David Kampf or something. So David Kampf is making $2.4 million for the next 2 seasons, like 2 seasons after this one. My camera keeps on disconnecting for some reason. $2.4 million for through to what is that, 26, 27. So he's a center. Okay, I'm
just keep it off. Oh, he's gone. Thomas is
he's back.
What? I hate this.
David Kampf is so for the entertainment value of Flyers hockey, David Kampf is gonna make it so much worse. I get it. Like,
a good guy at least. Like, would he be okay being like
a good dude? I don't know.
Healthy, I mean, a healthy scratch or like an AHL.
Yeah, I know he's totally fine with being a healthy scratch. Yeah. I think he's getting paid 2.5 a year.
Yeah, like Kampf
for not being good.
I mean, he's good defensively.
Yeah,
he also might be David worse Kampf. Offensively than he is good defensively. Like one of those players.
Yeah.
So it's like
Blair
Thompson,
Betts, good old Blair Betts.
Yeah, but Kampf, he's fine. He's he could be the fourth line center, and then now that Cates has taken a step, I think he could just be. He's a center. Like right now, he's not Rodrigo Abos. Like I think
Hey,
if,
hey,
Hey,
if you had to take back a guy that like is completely inoffensive, just like a guy, a filler, not gonna like cost your team anything, then that's fine, I think. And then if they really don't like him, they could buy him out or pay to get rid of him later. But like I think that's the cost that's gonna be to get that 2026 first, or like maybe you take back Camp and then that adds a little bit more value to what the Flyers get back. So then it suddenly becomes minted and a third or something like that. Like it becomes that kind of like minted third Camp and then for Laughton. So you get the swap. And like, because I think it also has to make sense financially for the Leafs because
yeah.
what cap space do they have? They have some LTIR space. They have
Yeah,
3.5 million.
Yeah. If you
And then-
if you take Camp though, it'll be
It's basically equal then.
yeah.
Like that they can.
They're
So I
both making
think
2 and a bit. I think
Yeah.
Camp's 2.5. I think Laughton's what 2.
Laughton's 3.
Minus
3.
yeah.
3. Okay.
So yeah, so Leafs would be paying $600K more for Laughton, which is honestly probably an upgrade. So I think it makes sense from their point of view. Minton, I think now's the time to strike of like trading prospects away potentially to just like get something to, especially with the like East so open. I think Toronto just makes too much sense. And yeah, like could you see? We'll finish with Laughton now because we've already been talking almost half an hour, but
I think he's the most logical candidate too, anyways.
Mhm.
Right?
yeah, like could you even see Laughton go anywhere else?
That's what I was saying the whole time. I really don't see it. Like why I don't see him going to Winnipeg.
Maybe like an Ottawa, but I'm not
Maybe.
sure. They don't need a center.
They got Shane Pinto and Norris and like
Stützle.
Pinto's similar. Like he's probably just better than Laughton. And
Yeah.
a similar
yeah.
sort of
But
guy.
yeah, I think if what does Ottawa have? Let me see. They also have no cast space basically.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be taking back someone. But like again, it's hard to see Laughton not in Toronto, like anywhere like Tampa.
Yeah.
Like, do they? I feel like that's
I don't think that they would have much cap space either, would they?
They have 7.2 million.
Really?
At the deadline.
Oh,
They
yeah,
have
I know.
4.7 current right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. They set, yeah, I guess with like not
Stamkos was making a lot. He
Stamkos
was
and then-
still making more than than who they brought in, Gensel and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like
What
is
they
Laughton
lost.
better than Luke Glendening and Cam He can reunite with Cam Atkinson and
Yeah. I mean, they got a bunch of guys in the bottom 6 who are very
man,
confused.
Laughton does feel like a Tampa deadline move.
He does.
That feels like Luke Shen, like take a guy that
Tanner
analytics
Janelle.
people don't like because his on ice impacts is terrible, and then suddenly they just win the cup.
Yeah.
They don't have a first this year. They have 2 seconds and a first next year. So, yeah, I mean, give us first next year. Is that's cool too?
They have LA's and Toronto's seconds. Fuck it, get 6 second round picks.
I don't.
Season. I've been doing too much draft research and looking and watching tape.
I think it is
watching
overrated.
tape.
I think we talked about this last time me and Gilbs were on too. I think it's overrated how people say the draft is just going to be bad.
Oh,
It's
it's
like,
stupid.
this is a bad
It's
draft.
every year.
Bad
so
one
fucking
this year,
stupid.
boys. Sorry.
Save
Like,
them for
Not
next
yeah,
year.
that good this year. It's only like the first 5 players. Everyone else is terrible.
The people that want to dismiss a whole draft class just because like, oh, I heard that like it's not the most
I heard that the
exciting.
top 20 Canadian players aren't very good. this
Like
year.
how it is this
What?
year is like 1 to 4. It's like instant. You have Higgins, Misa, Martone,
Schaefer.
and then after that it's like 6 to 20 is just like a blur of players. And then after that it's like the next 20 players is kind of a next tier down. Like it's these guys that are still super interesting and like yeah, I've been whatever. That's for another show, but
Yeah.
I
Just,
think yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Quick thing on Camp, like bringing on his contract doesn't hurt that much because that's also the year that Michkov's entry level deal kind of expires. So you're underpaying him if you're overpaying Camp. I mean, $2 million with the cap going up.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's really not that much of an overpay, realistically. Anyway, it's like 2.5. So.
No, it's more about blocking the kids and blocking whoever.
Yeah, it's more about the roster space that he's occupying.
But
as David
who's
Camp.
he blocking? Would it be
Anybody else who isn't David Camp?
okay? He's
like what? What are we?
But like,
David
who's the center that like he's desperately? Like,
there's
Fraser Minton maybe.
Jacob
we're getting
and
both of them.
Rodrigo
It's
Abel.
kind of overkill. Yeah.
I guess that is true. He's not really blocking anybody at the moment, is he?
Yeah, at the moment, and then whatever for the next 2 years, you just deal with it. But
I
think that's going to be the cost. They have to do something for the Leafs or for whatever team to get that coveted first round pick, just like the Sean Walker thing. They had to get Ryan Johansson. I think that's what's going to have to happen, and then they're going to walk away and still say, "Oh, we got our first round pick or got our top equivalent prospect, whatever." Which is fine. It's another sign that this will be longer term, that they're taking on more money temporarily, but it's fine. Especially, David Camp might be a little rich because it's also he'll still be here for another season after the buyout and everything, but all that money comes off. So let's move on to another player that is rumored to get moved. Rasmus Ristolainen. So obviously a defenseman. That market is drying up pretty quickly with the Columbus Blue Jackets being pretty good with Ivan Provorov. Marcus Pettersson is already in Vancouver and re-signed. So where I think trading Risto is a little bit more simple and straight ahead than trading Laughton. What do you guys think? Like, do you think it's not going to have that big of an effect on like the future of this team and the locker room? Or because I feel like on ice it's whatever. I literally don't care at this point. But what do you think?
Yeah, I actually think it's easier to trade Laughton simply because you already have like a team singled out. Okay, I guess it's not easier on the room and the intangible impacts, but I think it's easier just because you know where Laughton's going to fit. Risto can fit in a lot of places, and it's not as if you're not taking on money. It's going to be 5.1, and there's still a couple of years kicked onto the end of that, right? And he's been better. He's been good. I'm not sure if teams are going to be lining up to grab him just because he doesn't necessarily have that pedigree of being like that shutdown playoff type of defenseman, like your Chris Tanevs, even like the guy like the Luke Shen that you mentioned before, Zach Bogosian. Like they just find their way on the teams for a playoff run because they have a name value of being a guy who was valuable during playoff runs. That's just the thing with Risto. I'm wondering how or what can you get right now for Risto during the season that necessarily is going to be something like substantial. I don't know what you're going to get for him right now as it stands. It seems like he's still a bit to take on, even though he has played better, right?
Yeah, it's still like a lengthy There's still 3 more years, including this one, or one more than Laughton or whatever.
Yeah,
$5 million is still a bit, but like with Laughton,
2 after this year.
There's not many guys left on the market. I mean, David Savard is a rental option. Seth Jones, if someone wants his contract, that's really it for right-handed defenseman. Connor Murphy out of Chicago. Those are the 3 right D's on TSN's trade bait board. So like Risto is the guy, and I don't know. I have an article likely coming out tomorrow on this, but like I think Dallas could still be a spot for him. I know they got Cody Ceci and Granlund, but like I could see Ristolainen for either a first round pick or a Bork, and you take back Matt Dumba, so you don't have to retain. Yeah. They get out of Matt Dumba's contract, and we get out of Risto's contract.
Dumba in Philly is kind of perfect. As someone who has covered and watched the Wild for a while, if you're getting rid of Laughton as well, Dumba I think could replace some of the like good vibes. And he's been terrible in Dallas anyways. So yeah, he's been injured. Like it's just a 1-year contract, right?
No,
2
he
years.
is. He
I
is
signed
two,
for
yeah.
2 years.
He is two more.
Wow. Oh,
3.75 for
yeah.
that's crazy to commit to Dumbo. Anyways, yeah, I think even if they didn't have to move out Dumba, they have 5.5 of deadline cap space and current cap space because of the LTIR money. 12 million in LTIR pool with Sagan and Heiskanen potentially even going to LTIR. Yeah, I think even if they didn't move Dumba, I think easily it's one of those guys can sit for Risto, and it solidifies a little bit of your right side. Yeah, I think Dallas and the other one that I think we already touched on a little bit with Lawton, but I think the Jets just make so much sense for Ristolainen. They desperately need someone on the right side just to like solidify something. So they have Dylan DeMello, Neil Pionk, and Colin Miller on the right side right now. Colin Miller's not great. And Risto would easily replace him. And then Pionk's a UFA this summer, and he's probably not returning because no one re-signs in Winnipeg. So just having it be an added value to a place like Winnipeg, and honestly, like a decrease of value for Dallas because free agents actually go there. That Risto is signed to those 2 years. I think that could easily pry a first round pick or like a Brad Lambert or someone just of actually like value and would make an impact then from Winnipeg just because of that added bonus of him being tied up for so long.
Yeah, like I just look at Dallas and I see Heiskanen obviously is hurt. Lindell, Harley, Dumba, CC, Labushkin, Brendan Smith, who sometimes will take a shift on forward. If you didn't know that, he'll sometimes throw a Brendan Smith forward shift in there now and then. And they have Nils Lundqvist as well. So I don't know if they need a Risto, if they need another guy like Cody Ceci, who's just like a sort of a mid-salary guy who can kind of fill in on the bottom two pairs. Maybe Risto is that. I like the idea of like taking on Dumba's contract. I think they would be interested in that. But I think Winnipeg is really the spot. You know, he just seems like he would fit there too. He's a big guy, you know, a bruiser in Winnipeg. It's just,
finish in Winnipeg is just,
yeah, you know, he just seems like he'd fit in there. He's got kind of the look of a Winnipeg guy. Like he's just up more, get him as far north as possible and just leave him up there. And I think it would be good for them. I think he would fit in. I think they would like him there too. I think the fan base would really take to him, and like how the new sort of way, like the no nonsense kind of way he plays, where he's just shutting things down, and it's really simple, but it is effective when he's really working. Yeah, but I'm still kind of, again, with both these guys, I'm not exactly sure, because with Laughton, it was, I think they're valuing him too much. Like the Leafs, I think they're putting too much artificial value on him. But with Risto, I think there might be teams who are valuing him too little, because they still like see this vision of Rasmus Ristolainen 3 years ago, who was an absolute joke and like one of the worst, you know, defensemen to actually play minutes, like significant minutes for 3, 4, 5 years, right? His first little bit of his career, especially in Buffalo, and even when he came to Philly. So I don't know if teams are, I assume that's kind of been rehabbed a bit with how well he's played and how he's turned his game around, but I don't want to give him away for, you know, a second or something. I think you could almost keep him for another year, and then at the deadline next year, maybe cash in on that chip and send him out the door. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
I don't hate that. And when Thomas posed the original question, I was going to say, I think it's just a matter of, will Risto get traded this deadline or in the summer? But now that you bring that up, like, he's not blocking any big right-handed defenseman that's physical. Like maybe Bonk, you're saying, could come up, but he's more in the Drysdale, Andre like mold there. So yeah, it doesn't, if they don't get their asking price of a first or a pick, like a second and a prospect, like, yeah, it doesn't hurt them to keep him around, and especially now that he is hurt and like you don't know how he's going to come back, if teams are going to be impacted by that, and maybe just keep him around.
And it's not like for a defenseman who plays the way he does, it's not like he's old either, right? Like he's still got a lot left in the tank. He's played a lot of hockey, but he's still got a lot left in the tank. I think he's 30, right?
Yeah, he's 30.
Yeah, so he's 30 years old. You know, for a defenseman, he could still have another 8 years of decent level hockey still to play. I mean, it'd be a long career, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? Like he's not going to rely on his speed, and he's going to get more savvy, you'd think, over time, and kind of have like those little vet plays that all those older wily defensemen make. He's going to pick that up over time because now he seems like he has an actual like foundation to his game. So if he sticks around for another year and has another season or half a season that's like this one where you're just looking at him, you're like, yeah, that's a solid NHL defenseman. You can have him on your second pair with a good partner or your third pair, and you can probably go get to, you know, go on a decent little playoff run, right? He's not going to hurt you. He's going to do what he does and keep it simple, right? And I think that value will still hold next year if you don't necessarily get something great for him. But at the end of the day, if you get something worth trading him for, I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I think especially with Risto, but it also applies a little bit to Laughton where they can definitely wait until the summer even, or like you said, next deadline. That's where they have the upper hand on a lot of negotiations. Like, oh, we'll just keep him. Like he's under contract for next year. Like, fuck it. Like if you're not giving us a first round pick or the prospect that we want, then fine. Then then enjoy another first round exit, Winnipeg. Like that they like Briere could just probably just say that to Shovel Day off. Like there's a power above it that I think is good, and it's in a good position that how timely it is, and especially with their contract that with Ristolainen, like I don't think his value is going to go down next season. I don't think you could see now, like if teams are clamoring for him and Flyers are asking for a first round pick, I don't think that ask goes down to a second or like, oh, just give us a second and a prospect that might play like 100 games in the NHL, whatever. I don't think that ask goes down at all if you wait 12 months. One player, moving on from kind of the two obvious ones.
One more thing on Risto. If they do trade him away, like it kind of fucks up their D pairings. Like who are you going to put on the second pair? Like you have York Sanheim top pair, but then are you trusting Drysdale Sealer to be the second pair? Like there is something there where it could be valuable to keep Risto around to play with Andre on the second pair, to play with York on the second pair. So there's also that factor, and the Flyers definitely want to develop their players correctly.
Yeah, I mean Eric Johnson exists, but that's a thing.
Yeah, he exists. He skates around out there sometimes.
He definitely exists. Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of Eric Johnson in a vacuum of like, if you can't play better than him, then you don't deserve to play in the NHL kind of thing. Like, I love the guys that are obviously brought to NHL training camps and be like, this is the bar you have to get over for like all the young guys. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like, say they got Dumba or whatever, like that, he's going to be our seventh guy. Like Emil Andre, you have to play better than Matt Dumba. Helge Grans, you have to be better than Matt Dumba. EJ was that this year, and yeah, oh my god. But yeah, I think with the pairings, I think it does like fuck up for the like everything a little bit for the rest of the year, unless like the Flyers really think Grans could just come up and replace him, and then you suddenly get like a Sanheim, Drysdale, Grans on the right side.
Oh,
which is like messy.
I don't know if two of those players are NHL caliber, to be honest with you right now, Thomas. I'll be completely frank with you.
You don't think Drysdale's NHL caliber?
I think he's NHL caliber, but I don't think he's better. Has he looked better than Emil Andre this year at his best points? No, Emil Andre is currently not in the NHL. So,
yeah.
I mean, I won't. That's for another episode, actually.
I mean, Andre plays the right side too, so you could probably just do that.
Yeah,
like just have that, and then have what is it?
You could have Sanheim, Drysdale, York, Andre, and then Sealer, Zamula or Johnson or whoever.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to put Drysdale
enough.
with like a big guy who's got some experience, and ideally.
yeah, that's a conversation for when it actually happens, I think.
Yeah.
The player I was going to mention that they do have a little bit of a clock on is the newly acquired Andrei Kuzmenko. Last week, this was a thing that like I don't think is going to happen, but last week the reports came out of Nick Kypreos randomly put Kuzmenko on his trade board, and of course, Jacob and I, being Ontario guys, we know Nick Kypreos very well, and Nick Kypreos as the media darling that he is. He likes to say a lot of things and just kind of machine gun out there on the radio. But on his trade board on sportsnet.ca, he was his first version this year. He was the first one that actually put Mikko Rantanen's name on something. He kind of got a little bit of a this could happen. Don't be surprised if like Colorado wants to be longer term and the contract situation isn't working out. It doesn't take a genius to have that, to see the writing on the wall of like Chris McFarland's a savvy guy. He might do like a little bit of an unexpected move here, but Kypreos obviously has some sources, so I'm not going to say like it's all bullshit. But he put Andrei Kuzmenko down, and he said that it's likely that the Flyers are going to flip him at the deadline. Now, everything that the Flyers are saying themselves is we're going to have a look at this guy. We really liked him enough to like maybe sign him this offseason. That was a plan that they were thinking about of seeing him as a free agent. And now they got them early, and now it's an actual look. There's only 6 games until the deadline. I don't think that you're gonna get a good enough read on what he's like in Philadelphia in those 6 games. But yeah, like do you agree that it makes sense to just flip him and do like a straight up like this is an expiring asset, he's a free agent this summer, just flip him? Or would you rather see like whatever, he's an exciting guy, see how he works with Michkov on the power play or separate power plays, it's an injection of skill for the rest of the year, and then see if what happens in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, like, what are you going to get for him? Like, maybe a 3rd round pick, and that's going to
Yeah.
be from a playoff
And
team.
you'll retain
might as well
half.
be a 4th round pick, and see. I mean, he had that great play on the Flyers' only shot in the first period against the Penguins there that they scored on. Like, he looks like with
The
some
one
time,
guy.
with some practice, he might be able to fit in. So yeah, as long as Michkov likes him. Like, I was wondering if it was just like, oh, Michkov played with him and they traded for him, and then they didn't ask Michkov about him and they hated each other or something. But no, I mean, Briere said they want to see how he does. So, I mean, yeah, there's no reason to trade him for like a 4th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things that I don't really even understand the point of it. Like it does. Getting a mid-round pick and retaining half, which frankly that isn't going to mean much, obviously, right? But is getting a mid-round pick, is that worth not just giving it a roll and seeing if he's got something left in the tank, right? Currently, he's point per game.
Yeah.
Like right now, he's point per game.
I mean, like, it's part of that, but also like Sean Monahan got a first.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, if it's out there, get it.
Sean Monahan was good last year, though.
He was.
Yeah,
he's
he was.
a center. He's also a center.
He's also a center. He's also
yes.
Yeah.
But also Kuzmenko had that conversation with Briere and Jones to waive his no trade clause to come to Philadelphia. Like, you have to think they told him they're going to do good by him, and if it comes out that they said, we're going to keep you, see how you fit out till the summer, and they flip him, that's like the opposite of everything the Flyers family is about. So like, I wonder what conversations were had there and if there were any promises made.
Like, I think the conversation, I think we had this chat in the Slack, but like my read on it about the initial, like convincing Kuzmenko to waive his no trade clause, I think if he gets traded, then it will come out, be like, we convinced him that, oh, he's not staying here. Like, don't get an apartment or whatever. Like, you're not staying here. We're going to flip you to Vegas or whatever. We're going to flip you to LA, and you could live off of the sunny beaches and play a long playoff run, beat Connor McDavid in the first round. And yeah, like I think part of that is that talk could have been, we're going to flip you to a contender. You haven't really experienced a huge playoff run. Right? I guess Vancouver. No, he was traded.
Yeah.
He was not
I
on the Canucks in the playoffs.
I think he was there for a minute. Wasn't he in the playoffs?
He was after COVID, so not that playoff run from Vancouver.
No.
And then last year he was in Calgary. I think that's it.
Yeah,
right?
he is not. He's not played a playoff.
Yeah.
game.
So you get to play in the playoffs. We'll flip you to a playoff, and then you get that experience before hitting the open market, and you could decide from there. Like I think that could have been part of the discussion, but that's also like we don't know what the discussion was about. I think, Gilbert, I think what you said is more likely of like you get to play with your buddy Michkov, your former teammate. We don't even know if they're friends, but a guy that you speak the same language of. And then you get to do that and then walk into free agency, or even if you excel here, you don't even have to think about free agency and we'll just resign you. I think it could have been really like either way.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was saying that's probably more likely. So who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing I was looking at too. It was like for me, you look at this last half of the season, right? So he's got that contract right now. He's not gonna that's seen currently as a bad deal. So I can't imagine that he gets a raise from that. He's gonna go down.
No.
I don't know if it's gonna be half of that. I don't know if it's gonna be 3.5. But
he scored almost 40 goals. I bet he could get 4.
That's what I'm saying. Can he get 3.5?
Skinner got 3 from Edmonton. Like that seems like
that
seems
so
like a decent. Yeah,
if he's getting 3.5, let's say he gets for 2 years, you get him for $3.5 million per se, 3 years, etc. Right? Like this, if he shows something in the second half, if you do actually keep him, this is a guy who 2 out of his 3 seasons, he's scored over 20 goals. The 1 year he shot a stupid percentage and scored 39, right? Playing with Pettersson, right? So that's not necessarily a repeatable track to success. But if you can get a guy who scores 20 goals for $3.5 million, just stick him on your third line, who may or may not be friends with Michkov. I have no idea. Who knows? I mean, I can't imagine they hate each other's guts. So as long as they don't, then it should be fine. You know, all you can say is like that's maybe a possible positive of it right now because we don't know for sure, right? But if he regains some form, I mean, he's not a useless hockey player. I think he's been kind of discarded in all the talk about Farabee and Frost, and I get it. I get why, but at the same time, that 74-point season with Vancouver, Farabee and Frost have never gotten anywhere close to the heights that he hit that year. And the fact that that's even in there, that he has the potential to do that, or even get to 30 again, even get to 25. If you're getting that for 2 guys, at least one guy in Frost who you knew was not coming back originally, he was just not going to come back. As long as Tarts was the coach, I wouldn't even think he would consider signing a contract here, right? Unless it would literally nobody else wanted him. But Farabee, obviously an asset, but you're looking at a guy you basically got on a whim, not necessarily the biggest piece of the trade that the Flames kind of wanted to just get out the door because of his contract. So if you can get him down and he looks okay, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility to re-sign him. You need guys on the roster. You need guys who can play. If he can help the power play a bit, I mean, even last year he had 11 power play goals. I mean, if he could bring anything to that power play, that's at least something. And you're going to need to at least establish some sort of like organizational track record of minimal success at the power play, and bring guys into it over time, right? You can't just have a bunch of prospects come up and now you have a good power play. It's very difficult to do that, especially when you've been so overwhelmingly shit at it. And yeah, I kind of want to see him stick around just to see what he's got. I don't know if it's worth dumping him for a third, although I wouldn't. I'm not going to cry if they do it, right? Like, it's again, we're kind of
I would be happy either way to see it out or to get just like straight cold-hearted business. Let me like get as many assets, especially if you can. My thing about re-signing him or the Flyers even like looking at him to get him is like, is there even a spot on this roster that makes sense? Like on the left side, you already have Forrester and Tippett like locked in. Would you rather have Kuzmenko on the third line, or would you rather keep that open for like, well, if Pelletier plays well, then you have Pelletier and Brink basically as your third line wingers. Then like I think the wings, getting a winger that's like he's not going to be here for a long time, I don't see it as it makes too much sense to keep him over just playing guys that could potentially be here for longer.
That's fair.
I don't know.
So it's just like you might as well.
Kuzmenko's a left wing by trade,
Yeah.
like, and Tippett I think is a natural right wing. So like getting Kuzmenko allows Tippett to go back to his.
But like you already have
right
Michkov
side,
and
but you have Konechny and Michkov and Tippett. Like
that's why Tippett's on the left.
That's good. That's good right wing depth. Then what do you have left wing? You'll have Forster, Kuzmenko, and
Owen Tippett's also not
Pelletier.
the most consistent hockey player. You know, is Owen Tippett really? If we're having like tough conversations about NHL hockey players, is on a very good team, is Owen Tippett a top sixer really? Like maybe with great line mates, yes, I think he is. But if he's going to have to be the guy doing the job, that's again a different conversation. But you know,
I think if Bobby
he's definitely
Brink
somebody I'd rather have over Kuzmenko, so that's all that really matters.
I think if Bobby Brink had Tippett's foot speed, he'd be a better player than Tippett.
Yeah,
just saying. But yeah, I not to get like super Rasha construction-y, but like I think keeping everything super flexible. Like even today Charlie put out a thing with Brent Flair of like how much they love Alex Baum, and like he might get a real look in training camp. Like he's a left wing. Like I don't see. I would rather have Bump there if he earned it than Kuzmenko potentially being like a guy that leaves the zone super early and then just scores 20 goals because of that. And then he's like traded for a third round pick next year or whatever. Yeah. Like it's just I don't see the timeline really work.
Yeah, I think you probably talked me out of it. I don't know really.
Maybe I mean,
a bit of devil's advocate.
I'm so good at convincing people.
No, it's just like I look at it and it's just like, yeah, he's just another winger. I like him as a player, but I think when you have so little depth at center and so much out wide, it's tough. Because I do want to see some of the young guys. I'd rather see them than him there.
Unless they're gonna use that money for a center, which I don't know who they can go out and get this offseason. Like, why not sign him for a year or two? And like he's there, and like the young guys, whoever fits, whoever doesn't fit is a part of that trade package for a center. Like I feel like he's someone you could pencil in there, pencil in the lineup every night, you know, as long as he fits in the final however many games here with the Flyers. I feel like that's something.
I think if it's 1 year,
that's all kind of conditional too.
I think if it's 1 year, it's fine. It's livable. It's like this is the year that we weren't really thinking about. Like next season, like 25-26, this is the year that like before all the money becomes available, before they're gonna go big game hunting, supposedly of summer 26. If it's 1 year with Kuzmenko, just to like inject some skill into this lineup and like actually maybe stay competitive and not completely sink, then that'd be fine. I think that'd be fine. But it's like if it's more than that, if you're signing for 2 or 3 years, then it's like you're committing to a guy who could just like out of nowhere be the most useless hockey player, like he was with the Flames this year. And then like I don't know, it's a tricky situation where you don't want to repeat what Vancouver did of like buy into a short-term success and then sign to a deal where you eventually have to just
I wouldn't sign him for any more than 2 years at maximum. And like if I'm saying 2 years, I'm saying like 2.5.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, like it's really low commitment stuff I'm talking about here, to be fair. But whatever.
Just put Pelletier there and see what it does. I'd have to just let it rip.
Pelletier feels more like a Flyer anyways.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, moving on from Kuzmenko, is there anyone else you could see, like anyone at all on this Flyers roster that you could see moving? Again, like stuff comes out of the blue with this team. We didn't see Fairby and Frost getting traded. We saw maybe them by the deadline. Of course, their names were on trade boards and stuff, but we didn't see it like, oh, keep your eye on this, like we have with Lawton or whatever. But stuff comes out of the blue with this front office. So could you see them move anyone else that we really haven't mentioned yet?
Well, we had a YouTube comment here from Mr. Bone 99. Noah Cates is probably your sexiest trade option. He's 25. Do you re-sign him or trade him? I hadn't even considered Noah Cates as a trade piece, but like if you could get like some sort of Tanner Jeannot like return for Noah Cates or something, like just rob the lightning
I got
blind,
a second there.
Go for it.
You get Tanner Jeannot back for him? You got to make that deal.
That I never thought of that either. That's funny because you kind of think of him as being part of the core now because he's been so good this year. He seems like he'd fit, even if as you add players above him, hopefully that are like have a higher skill ceiling than him offensively. Maybe a team could want him. I don't know.
He's so good defensively, though. I love him.
He is.
He's just so all around good. And he's not going to cost a lot because he doesn't produce. And I think he's always going to be a guy that no matter how much you pay him, like whatever the estimated dollar is of like 4.5, whatever long term, until like if it's 4x4 that he wants next, like he's making 2.63 right now, then I think you just re-sign him to that. But him as a trade piece, it's interesting because then like Flyers are gonna have no centers.
At that point, you'd have to get somebody back.
Well, yeah, like
you have to get a roster player.
Like you have to.
No, and you get David Kampf.
Oh wow. Would you trade Easton Cowan for Noah Cates, Thomas?
Would I want? No. There's no guarantee of what Cowan is. I'm not.
Yeah, I think I agree. So then that's their best asset. So
you wouldn't trade Noah Cates for Easton Cowan?
No.
I don't know if Cowan's just like the only good Leafs prospect, but I've just heard so much hype around him. Okay.
He is. It's him.
He's a Leafs prospect that plays for the London Knights. So
he had a very good season last year. He was
like he's fine. He's fine, but he's also like not big. He doesn't play with immense pace that you want from smaller players.
He could be a similar guy to Nick Robertson. Like if he doesn't
100%. A guy that excelled.
He could be very good.
He like
Morgan Frost is similar sort of vibe.
Isn't that kind of the swing you should take for like? Yes. I love Noah Cates, but like at the beginning of the year, he was a healthy scratch. We didn't think anything of him, and like if you can turn this 2 months of great play into potentially a top 6 center, even like. I don't know. I don't think the Flyers would do it, but it's definitely
I think we do have to. I think we do have to be careful overusing the phrase "was a healthy scratch" because that then draws in half the roster. At times,
I mean, 2 of them are gone, but
yeah, fair. Yeah, fair of them. Fair. Noah Cates, though, he just is such a versatile little player to have.
Yeah,
like even if you stick him on the third line. If he has to play up to the second line because the team has no centers, like I don't think Cates should have ever been scratched at that point too. Like we've seen that was probably not the best play, given who's still on the roster. But yeah, it's interesting to think about him as a trade piece. But the guy that I saw somewhere, I don't remember if it's in the BSH Discord or just randomly online. Someone was talking about you don't trade Rasmus Ristolainen and you actually trade Cam York.
Oh, I saw that too. And
where was that?
Well, ASF is floating York's name out there like a lot.
Oh, is that like, ASF? I'll be honest, I don't keep up. I really don't.
He's he's looped him in with Laughton and Risto. Like,
Yeah.
York could be the move that you do that to get your center.
I don't hate it in theory.
York's been so good. Like
He is very good.
He's so fucking good. Like,
no, I'm talking again. We're talking about like, can you get Marco Rossi for Cam York?
That'd be the move that they'd want to get. Yeah. Like,
I think he's very good and he's 24.
Can you imagine Cam York on that blue line too in Minnesota?
Come on.
I don't think Minnesota needs any more defensemen.
They don't need any more defensemen. It would be a wagon.
I mean, Coote fits for Pettersson, maybe Tage Thompson, but like, or York, like, it's
York could be like the best. York would be the best defenseman on Buffalo that actually cares about defense. No one fucking there. But anyways,
no one's ever cared about defense in Buffalo.
But I think that's the move that you do. One, in the summer. I don't think that's a trade deadline move. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to do that to like in the middle of the season. And then again, I think York only moves as part of to get a bona fide top line center. Like, I don't think he's the move for. I just got a ping from Elliot Friedman that in the USA game right now it's Kachuk, Eichel, Kachuk. That's a fucking like nasty line. It's a MAGA line. That's I think if you're trading York, it's for the bona fide. I don't think you're getting it for a Dylan Cousins. Like, I wouldn't want that trade off. Because York is he's a guy that at his worst he's a second pairing defenseman. At his worst, he's for the next billion years he's Matthias Ekholm. Like, basically, like Matthias Ekholm in Nashville was that he's playing behind Roman Josi, and then he was the stable guy that could be relied on, and now he's in Edmonton playing pretty obviously like just the answer guy.
Yeah, he's.
I don't think and it's hard to like wrap your head around it, but I again don't know what specific centers are available, but if you get your guy, then I think that's the move you make. But it's also how much value York has around the league. Like, do teams see him as that, or is he just like he's a young guy that was a former first round pick, but he hasn't really done like put up points or anything?
Yeah, I'd like to see York stick around. Like, I'd like to see like a York Bonk pairing next year, maybe. Like that could be something that's fun in the future. I just think, but yeah, if that center is available and they want Cam York, like, sure, go ahead. But no, unless it's that top tier guy that is the one you want, and hold on to him for a bit.
Yeah, and besides that, I don't really think there's anybody else on the roster that I'm really looking at, unless you're thinking of like Nick Seeler. I feel like Nick Seeler, that ship has sailed. I think he's
on that new contract, baby.
Yeah,
hanging around, man. He's got paid. He's kicking his feet.
Full no trade clause for Nick Seeler. He's blocking shots and blocking trades.
Oh yeah. He's probably he could waive to go to a playoff team if he really felt frisky, but I don't think he's doing all that. I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he's good just living around Philly for the next 4 years, and then just hanging out.
Yeah. Bobby Brink.
I thought maybe
now we're just putting out names.
Maybe Nick Delorier gets traded because the Flyers have been playing him a bit more recently than they have to. Maybe.
What are you getting for Nick Delorier?
Yeah,
I don't know. Goodwill. For let him go. Let him go play for a playoff team.
He's not going to play for any team. He's not playing for this team. How's he playing for a playoff team?
Experience.
I don't know. I mean, we were
talking before for the Ontario Reign.
Hathaway, I could see, but I feel like he's such a big, important part of the room now. Too.
I still don't know why people aren't talking about trading for Hathaway more. The Matt Boldy just scored. Hathaway to me is like the guy you should covet as just like a random sprinkle on top of an already really good team. But it doesn't seem like he's ever came up in rumors, and I think the Flyers are content to keep him around. So I'd put him at the same sort of security as most like Sealer and most other guys on the team at this point. I just think he's gonna.
Yeah, it's those character guys that also if you're trading Laughton, I don't think you lose a Hathaway and a Steeler.
No,
those type of guys. Then it's like Travis Genting and Couturier just like trying to lead this like band of misfits that miss Joel Farabee. Yeah, I think those are really like the surprise would be Kuzmenko. I think it would be the most like, oh, like that's an interesting name that we haven't really heard about because we've been ad nauseum. It's Risto and Laughton, and that's the guys that the Flyers might deal.
Yeah, I've got an article ready to go for tomorrow. We've talked about Laughton for Minton. That's written in there. I got the Risto to Dallas in there. My third one for 3 trades the Flyers can make for a center right now is for Trevor Zegras. So I wanted to ask you guys, what's the best draft pick you would give up straight up for Zegras?
What's the contract again? Let me look.
The worst one of the first.
The worst of the first.
Worst of the first.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, or the Ducks their second round pick back. He's at 5.
Okay, someone said a third of the chat. Zegras has like scored 60 points before. He's not a Morgan
I'm with that vibe. I feel your vibe.
I get it. No. I get it. He's not playing super well. I'm a Zegras believer of like
I'm not
in a different environment. He will become what he needs to be. And Anaheim is like killing their prospects. They're like Greg Conan is basically like, okay, what if we played hockey, but you hate your life while you play hockey? Like, what if you want?
Maybe he should come to Philly then.
I think Zegras still has something in him, so I think now is the time. Like, there's clearly a link, like in that whole thing of like, I forget who I was reading. I think it might have been ASF.
Of course you are.
Sorry. Is it preparation for this? He's writing about stuff. He mentioned that the Flyers, like multiple occasions over the last 2 years, have basically been checking on Zegras, basically like poking Matt Verbeek, be like, okay, how much is he worth now? How much is he worth now? Oh, Farabee for Zegras. Like, how much? Like, can we do that? They're basically like they clearly have an interest in Zegras. Like, that is the one thing that like they have in mind, that they might be able to turn Zegras into something, and they're just waiting and annoying Pat Verbeek enough to like get his value low enough to be like, okay, fine. We'll take him for break in a second. Jesus Christ, leave me alone. Like, that's the vibe I get. I think there's clearly some interest there. And I feel like it's a, like, if Anaheim lowers their ask enough, I think Philly's like the top of the line that is going to really try to get him.
You're making him sound like that guy in your fantasy league that just keeps offering you trades until he wears you down. You're like, all right, fuck it, I'll accept it.
That's Briere,
I think he's kind of Trevor Zegras. Speaking of fantasy, is kind of like Kyle Pitts. Like, he could be really good. Like, you could get Kyle. You could get Trevor
was really good for 2 years.
He was.
He's crazy.
And Kyle Pitts was good for like a minute there.
The thing is also, if you believe he's a center.
Yeah, I think I don't think he's going to be a center.
He sucks at faceoffs. Like,
yeah, that's a pretty big part.
Career faceoff percentage, I think, is like 42.
Yeah,
like,
that's really bad.
He's good enough, like, just because Anaheim's needed it.
Yeah,
but obviously with him, Anaheim has so many centers, so of course he's on the wing. Like, he's the first center that you move to the wing. But even if he's a winger, even if he's a left winger, I think instantly he could jumps over Tippett.
Well, actually, here's I'll throw something back at you from before. Would you rather have Trevor Zegras or other left wingers joining the roster who are prospects? Alex Bump or Trevor Zieg?
Well, Zegras, of course.
I'd give up 2 seconds for Zegras. I think I've decided on that.
2 seconds?
I would the 4. I'll give up 2 of the 4.
I like this draft class too much to give up 2 picks.
You have 3
I thought it was a weak draft.
And 2 more seconds after that. You have 5 picks in the first 60. How many guys do you want? There's 7 picks in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
This is a shit ton.
And the second round's all non-playoff teams too. I'm sorry. Calgary is not making the playoffs.
Yeah. So like it's pretty high. So just one late first.
2 of them. Yeah. Or one of them. Give the Ducks their second rounder back.
Hey, if they only want one for Trevor Zegras,
that becomes Drysdale Zegras.
We can get something done.
Drysdale Zegras for Cutter, yeah.
Easy. Okay. I think that's where we're
Drysdale back for Zegras.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. I think man. Zegras is a Flyer. Laughton's the Leaf. Risto is a Jet. We've figured out the Flyers.
Oh, just quick thing on the Jets. Like, can you just describe Brad Lambert's game to me? I have never seen him. I have no idea what he's like.
He's actually Finnish.
He's Finnish.
He's Finnish, okay.
Because he's
Brad Lambert, but he's Finnish.
Yeah. I would say pacey. Pacey.
Pacey or pasty?
Well, yeah, he plays. He's not big. There's questions if he's a center. He has a lot of skill. He was supposed to go in like the top 10, and then he was supposed to go like 2. And
yeah, he was supposed to go top 5 at a point.
Yeah, and then he kind of dropped one of those classic ones. I like him. He's a Zegras. He's like a Zegras to me, where like if I were to pick anyone and just like put him in a better situation, I think Brad Lambert, for some reason, Winnipeg just doesn't want to play him in the NHL consistently. And now he's getting to a point of like, what am I doing here? I'm like banging on the door. I'm clearly too good for the AHL. But yeah, like I think he'll score a bunch of points. He's good in the power play. I like him as a player. I've liked him in his draft year just because of the high potential of him, but also like he does feel like a guy that if he's not scoring or contributing offensively, then he doesn't have a lot other stuff to give. Like what's your third skill? What's your like third move? Then like scoring and being on the power play and managing play like that. But I like Lambert.
Would you rather have him over the Leafs guys?
I'd have Lambert over Minton, yeah.
And Cowan?
He's definitely got a higher ceiling.
And Cowan, yes.
I'm looking up Lambert's AHL numbers right now. He only has 3 goals, but he's shooting 4%. So I mean,
he's probably stuck in the like I hate being here. Like what? Like
yeah. The Cowan Lambert one's close for me, but
yeah, I think Cowan just being in the AHL and playing, he played against men. Like when Cowan's playing against like future HR staff in the Ontario League, and like, and then Lambert grew up playing against men in Finland. Like I think that just is good for the draft.
It's close. I think it's hard to tell before Cowan reaches another level beyond.
Yeah, but also Winnipeg, I feel like rarely trades these prospects too. Like, like again, another high offensive talent of Billy Heinola, whatever. He was like a defenseman that so many teams, I think, so many fan bases have been like, oh well, he's like basically the next Carlson, whatever. But then he just never found a consistency in Winnipeg, and then he not even moved at all, just because he's like just hanging out there, like. Because Winnipeg needs as much team control as possible. They're like Oakland in baseball, basically. Like they just would rather trade for these young guys and then be able to have them under team control and keep them there forever. So yeah, I think Winnipeg values Lambert a lot, but also Risto, proven NHL player, needs consistency on that right side. Easily replaces Neil Pionk next year. I think is kind of a match there. But it's also if the Flyers like Lambert. I think if they get Zegras, obviously they love Zegras apparently. If they get Zegras, then they're not going to get a Lambert. They'd rather just like fill in with Luchenko-esque two-way guys.
Yeah, I think Risto to Winnipeg and Laughton to the Leafs are the ones that make the most sense.
Yeah,
easily to me.
You're talking me into Winnipeg there more than Dallas, I guess. I'll go with that.
It just makes too much sense.
Dallas would be a little weird because they got a lot of guys injured. That's the only thing. With
Winnipeg loves. They just need guys to stay there, and Risto's contract is like
big guys. Winnipeg just always had big defensemen.
Buffalo.
Logan Stanley's even there still.
Yeah,
like just big.
Actually, that was a point I was going to make of like Risto actually being actualized Logan Stanley, like what people think Logan Stanley can be.
Yeah,
basically. And he can actually do that.
Tyler Myers was there for a minute. Like they just get big guys.
God, yeah. I missed us to Buffalo. Okay. We talked a lot about trades for like 90 minutes. So Yeah. Anything else? We have a couple things coming from Gilbert on VSH. Read, subscribe. $5 a month gets you all that access to all that analysis. Subscribe to the YouTube. The people watching right now, like the video, please. Like Spike, whatever. I think that's a thing.
Is that the new smash subscribe? Like Spike?
Never heard that once in my life.
Apparently, it's good for the algorithm. I don't know. It does this. Just like the video, please.
Oh, if like a bunch of people like it at the same time.
Like,
Yeah, I thought you were talking like your turn of phrase. You're making new lingo. It's like YouTube analytics stuff.
Okay.
On the back end.
Yeah, I'm working the numbers. BroadStreetHockey.com. Gilbert, Jacob, Thomas. Thank you for watching and listening. Peace.
See ya.